Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Candy Rangers. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Mechano, Candy Rangers released in October of 2025 for the PlayStation 4 and 5, the Xbox, the PC via Steam, and the Nintendo Switch, which is the version we're looking at today. This title is a cute, colorful rail shooter, and it's one that I've been looking forward to for some time. I first played a demo of it from Steam's October 2024 Next Fest, and fast forward a year, and it's now available in full release. The full release is definitely a fun rail shooter that's a little on the challenging side, but there are some negative elements, specifically some frustrating, obtuse bosses. But with all that said, if you enjoy rail shooters, I highly encourage you to check out this game. There is still a demo available on Steam, so you can try it that way. Finding ourselves at the title screen, so when you start the game here, we're taken directly into the game itself, and it'll leave you off where you last saved, which is really nice. But starting the game, we would start out here on Practice 0. So selecting your stage, we're dropped right into the game most of the time. There is this intro cutscene here for the first time you fire up the game, but now that we're past that, we can start showing off the various elements of gameplay. So you control the reticule on the screen, and then we have 4 types of shots, each associated with the character that you see there. So we have Candy, who fires it with a horizontal pattern. The next character we have is Mint, who fires with a vertical pattern. Then Plum, who fires forwards and backwards into the screen. And lastly, we have Lemon. So you control whichever button you're pressing on the controller is which character you're firing with. That's the way that you control your shot. Now, in addition to that, as this is a rail shooter, we also have some movement to take into effect. So the game will generally move us automatically through the stage, but we do have some elements that we can use to influence that as well. So what kind of things can we potentially do? The game does have a dash as well as braking, but a lot of times it'll mainly just be the jump that we're using to get through the stage itself. So the tutorial does a good job of introducing you to the game itself, and there'll be a couple tutorial stages that will explain some of the other mechanics of the gameplay. Now let's actually look at one of the stages itself. So selecting the first stage you would encounter, Poplars 1, before we go any further, let's just talk a quick bit about the game's look. It has sort of this low poly, kind of high res PlayStation 1 look to it, and I really enjoy the way that the game is as far as an aesthetic is concerned. It just really vibes with me. So to begin the stage, we have to go and shoot this main target, and now we'll see here that we have enemies popping up that as we hit the enemies will build up combos, but you need to hit them with the correct corresponding shot. There are some enemies you can hit with any shot, so just take a quick moment to identify which enemies you have there, and then we can take them out. So on the first stage, things are actually pretty simple, but the later stages can get significantly more complex and challenging. So if you happen to miss your shot on an enemy, say we're trying to go and shoot these green enemies with, say, blue, you'll potentially be able to destroy them, but you'll lose your combo as well as your stars for the stage itself. In addition to that, should we go and take damage, we'll be losing time. The game doesn't have a life system, rather it has a time system. You can recover your time through combos. There's a little combo gauge that fills up around your reticule as you build combo, and if that gets filled all the way, then you will recover some time. There's also time clocks that you can get in the stage itself, either just on your path or potentially in branching paths or challenges that you need to complete. As an example, kind of like this here, we have all these enemies that pop up. Defeating the enemies will potentially net us either additional time or points. And in addition to all that, there's some other elements to the stages that I'll get to in just a bit. So now, once we hit the end of the stage, there's always that like target. Should you land in the middle, you get 1,000 points. Or for anywhere else, it's 500 or 100 points. Once the stage is complete, we're given additional bonuses for the time remaining in the stage, and then we drop back to the main menu. In addition to that, when we're moving through the stages itself, there are actually special items called medals that you can collect in each stage. Those medals are important as they'll allow us to advance to some of the later stages. For example, to get past the first section of the game, and or rather the first area, we need to collect a total of 15 medals, and then we can advance to the later parts of the stage itself. So we start to go and see some other mechanics start to build up here, where we've got lots of enemies of different patterns popping up, and now we can see that we've got this kind of elite character that's firing shockwaves at us that we have to jump over. So once we complete all the enemies in this particular wave section, we'll be able to advance through the stage. So keep in mind, where time is one of the key elements of the game, as that's more or less functions as our life, the faster we can get through a section like that, the better off you'll be. There are also other sections like this part of the stage where we'll see the characters diverge. So you have to be able to pay attention to what's happening on both sides of the screen, which can sometimes be a little confusing. One thing that's kind of neat about these sections is, even though the characters are separated, all the characters still behave with the same controls. So you're controlling like both groups with the same button. So if one side jumps, the other side jumps. And it's actually really cute. If you happen to end up having one of your rangers or multiple of them get left behind or stuck behind something, then they'll really rush to go and catch up with the rest of the group. And that's basically the main elements of the game itself. Now, when we're on the map, as we move around, there are other areas we can get to. The first area you'll unlock past poplars is the estuaries. So here we have a different overall look, and the game itself does have some new mechanics. Overall, I feel like the estuaries are more straightforward than even the poplar section, but we do encounter some new enemies, and there are also some new puzzles and challenges that you need to master to be able to get all the medals in a stage itself. One of the common ones for this area is properly throwing away your cans. Using our jumps double jump, we can knock the cans easily into the trash can there, and it'll be coins or medals depending on where we happen to be in the stage itself. So in addition to sections like this, the game does also have boss fights. Each individual area does have a boss that you can unlock by getting the requisite number of medals, and as we can see here, there's usually a kind of boss arena. So for this one, we start off by getting a lot of time available to us, and then we enter our boss fight itself, this kind of electric horse. So as far as the bosses are concerned, you need to hit them with the shot that they're currently vulnerable for, and that will change. If you happen to be hitting them with an invalid shot, you'll hear a sound that is basically your shot bouncing off of their shield. You want to avoid taking damage, but there are usually opportunities to build up time in these fights as well. So one of the ways to go and do so is by building the combo meter. Then there will also be phases where, like this, you can potentially earn time back by getting hits in on the boss, which I did poorly. So now let's go and talk about some of the issues that I have with the game. The biggest minus flavor I have with the game is the boss fights, as there are situations where you can be confused as to what's even going on. So they do feel a little on the obtuse side, and it would have been great if they would have included some sort of health bar so you could just see how the fights were progressing rather than just having to go off of feel and just try again until you actually get it right. But on the plus flavors, I really love the bright, colorful look of the game itself. Not just that, but also the design choices that they went with of going for kind of a somewhat retro look as well. The game also has a great soundtrack and some great sound design to it, so that's definitely a huge plus as well. And then lastly, the gameplay overall is simple, and yet there's a lot of challenge to it. So the stages themselves all have a lot of variety to them, and well, as we've gone and discussed, there is challenge here. So I ran out of time, so we will have to try that fight again. As I mentioned, the boss fights are one of the areas where I do have a bit of frustration. So with all that said, at the end of the day, Candy Rangers is a title that I still do recommend, especially if you're a fan of rail shooters. Definitely, if you have the ability to do so, check out the demo via Steam so you can see if this one's one for you or not. And with that, we find ourselves at the end of this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful week yourself, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.